Welcome back to another Anatomy of the Trade. So today we're going to follow up on some of the trades, on actually one of the trade, Tesla from Padre, and then we're going to look at another trade by Jim, which was in COUP software. And also we're going to update you on the market. So we're going to go through the market update. So with that, here is a trade that Jim has conducted, and it's kind of a little bit hard to see it here, but here it is. I'm highlighting this in yellow, and we have different add-ons. Let's just go to Franz for initial thoughts. Franz, what do you think about this trade, the selection, and just the whole execution?
Okay. Well, thanks, Ramon. And the trade was obviously constructed during the area that he's got rectangled out in red on the chart. He's looking at a horizontal trading range that I think we can look at and see that it's got the characteristics of a Wyckoff structure, and he's also using the Weiss wave to give him even more input into and feedback into where is supply and where is demand, and when's the most opportune time for him to take advantage of the uptrend that starts to develop. So to me, it looks like he's spot on, reading this very well. His notation for his initial buy is that kind of downsloping blue arrow that goes across to the significant bar, just to where that upswing starts. I believe that's his point of entry right there, which looks to me
right here, right, Franz?
Is that it, or is it the one
Yeah, I
before
think
that?
it's it starts here on this bar. Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. So he bought after the significant bar that indicated that momentum was picking up to the upside, and then took it from there. So that's what I see. What do you think, Roman?
Yeah, I think that first of all, selection is absolutely correct. We are in the uptrend of the market, so you want to be in line with that market uptrend. So you want to pick up the stocks for your swing trades that are already in the established uptrend. That's number one. Secondly, you want to pick the stocks in the hot, groups, and software has been on fire. So this is a really great pick. And then obviously, as Franz has said, this is a trading range. So obviously this is the place from where the price will get away, in the uptrend to the upside. What's interesting here is, this volume signature at the end of the trading range. What does it signify? So there is definitely some supply that is coming in here, but at the same time, what kind of result do we have? And also, please note, here is a note from Jim here, that there is a lot of effort to push the price down, and there is no result. And that happens on the day or around the day of June 11th. If you go back, in your on the market charts and you look at 611, that June 11 bar, it was the largest bar after the COVID reaction to the downside. So the stock does not follow to the downside as a whole market, and suggests that there is a lot of buying here, even at this level, and suggests higher prices. So in terms of the, execution, and Franz alluded to this, we definitely want to be a little bit earlier in this position. We want to be coming in either on this bar after that effort versus result, and we could see how the supply numbers are actually increasing, and yet there is no progress to the downside. Every time we have higher lows, which is just so amazing. So once we have something like this and we are identifying potentially phase C, and we are saying a lot of effort but no result, we could come in right on the next bar, somewhere here. Then the next entry is just to break out of the high of that small bar, the close, and then the bar where Jim actually entered. So even though we're late into the entry, and another reason why we want to be a little bit early, because momentum off the bottom here, carries us through maybe like $30 really quickly. So we want to take that. We want to take advantage of that. But with the entry that we have here, I think everything else is great. The add-ons, there are two of those at the appropriate times. The only thing, and this is already a closed out trade, the only thing is where we're closing this. And I think that Jim has closed because this is a red bar, so this is a down bar right here. And it was somewhat of a larger, slightly larger down bar than we have had in this areas. Now, the problem with this bar is that it was not large enough, and the volume signature also was not large enough for us to close out the trade completely. If we would look at this volume signature and we would just start thinking, okay, well, where should we close the position? Here, where the volume signature actually increases, and that shows us some supply here where supply is increasing, and then somewhere here in this area. And this volume signature is just not there. So I would say that we probably would still have to keep the stop loss somewhere here below the last significant bar to the upside. So those are kind of my initial thoughts, Franz. So point of entry could have been improved, and then point of exit, could have been improved a little bit more as well.
One thing I'm noticing as you've been talking is the olive drab up channel that he's got showing here. And I'm wondering if that also was part of his key, or it could have been his key for entry, because, and I would also ask you, Raman, what do you think about the points that he's got connected? I mean, what do you think that he's drawn this the best possible way? It certainly would look like his exit was after an overthrow of the channel the way he's got it drawn. So, I've got a question about, does he have the right points connected? What do you think?
Yeah, I would definitely slightly, redo this. For instance, it seems to me that this seems to be like a momentum kickoff, so I would use this low right here, and I would use this low. And let me just bring this in a different way. Let me just bring another chart. This would be a little bit easier to see without all of these numbers. So for instance, here, actually this one is okay too, right? So here's our first line, and then we want to have some kind of medium here.
Parallel line that's, yeah.
And then something like this. So from this perspective, and you could go even to a slightly smaller trend line right here. So we're still in the lower part of this trend channel. And there's still plenty of time, plenty of space here to accelerate actually to the upside. And this acceleration could overcome this medium line and could do something like this. So that's why I'm kind of questioning whether the exit was correct here at this point. There is really nothing that threatening in that supply signature. So our stop losses would go like this, this. Then on this bar, we would move the stop loss here, this, and then this is the latest stop loss. So the latest stop loss is about 272. There is still plenty of room to go. So yeah, I wonder how that's going to unfold and whether this is going to become a more pronounced mistake or not. What do you think, Franz?
Well, time will tell. But I do like the fact that he did he did show the uptrend channel. I was just questioning if I was drawing it, would I have drawn it the same way? And also, the demand line with that that significant bar that the arrow before the up thrust area there. If you're using the demand line of the channel as part of your kind of alert system, that might also give you a little bit earlier warning to get in.
Yeah, and the strides of the trend usually change. You could start with the stride that is like this, then go to the next stride, and then accelerate into the climactic action. So you have to kind of adjust to the stride, understanding that you are trading such a high momentum stock. Um, maybe the stride should be somewhere here as well. Okay. Well, still a really great job by Jim, and it's just so great to see that our students are benefiting from all of this knowledge and skill building, and they're getting into profitable positions and getting the money. This is a great trade. On the process, the variance was 88, and yeah, the point of entry, and I would say probably the exit. So to me, that's still under the question. So there's 2 points, the point of entry and the exit. So it's kind of funny how we see the trades that are profitable, but we still see how much improvement we could make, on a single trade, and just optimizing it more and more. Speaking, Franz?
And the nice thing about improving is more money in our pocket.
Exactly. All right. Next, this is a follow-up on the trade that Padre actually submitted to us a couple of weeks ago. We were discussing this in the class. In the last video, we discussed it as well. We talked about the stops. So Padre actually, showing recommended stops, recommended add-ons. And we had a chance to talk to Padre in the class a little bit. And the idea about those add-ons, and specifically add-ons, because as you guys know, for those of you who are our regular listeners, and France is always on me, when you are in a profitable position, where are your add-ons? Because if you are in a profitable position and the position is extremely profitable, you need to find the ways to increase the size. Those opportunities are not going to be always there, so you want to use those opportunities as much as you can. And here with Padre, just to follow up, we're definitely seeing already some profit taken. I think it's appropriate. So he took half of the position off. It's definitely appropriate just to leave some to see, how it's going to unfold next. Maybe there is a little bit more room there. One of the ideas here, maybe just to go to the PNF and just to identify what is the PNF potential for this area right here, and kind of project the target zone like that, or just basically follow the stop loss and trail the stop losses like this, and let the market take you out. Franz, what are your thoughts here on the follow-up for Tesla?
Well, it's trending, which is what we all live for. I mean, I've read that markets, statistically, people have studied markets, and what is it, 80% of the time markets are in consolidation trading ranges. So when we get a trend like this, it's a thing of beauty. And I think, scaling out a little bit, putting some money in the bank and still leaving yourself some additional involvement is great. And, I think he's got a great trade going here.
All right. Well, with that concludes our anatomy of the trade segment. And now we wanted to jump to the market action and just do a little bit of the market update. So Franz, what are your thoughts on the market? Where are we in terms of the trends, in terms of the long-term picture, short-term picture? What catches your eye?
The thing that's most obvious to me is the the outperformance of the Nasdaq against every other index.
Mm-hmm.
You know, new all-time highs, and everybody else is, kind of stuck in a trading range, or maybe even looking like a bit of distribution if you're looking at the Russell. I don't know, but the Nasdaq is definitely where the money's going right now. So that's the first observation. When I was looking at that last little upswing, I
Mm-hmm.
was wondering if that didn't look a bit climactic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the other, I think it was last night, you were talking about, well, it does look a bit climactic, but there are certainly other instances in this move that also look climactic, and look what happened. So, it ain't over till it's over.
Yeah, look at this run right here. Just goes into the consolidation and we're still up. Look at this, goes into consolidation, we're still up. So here, it does look climactic, especially this bar right here. Um, and the idea here is, how do we confirm that this was a climactic action? And actually, why don't we do this as an exercise really quick? So, for instance, climactic action, um, where is the confirmation that we are, let's say, going into a trading range rather than continuing to the upside? Well, we're going to have a reversal of the last commitment to the upside. So here it is. And that suggests that we are going to be in some kind of non-trending environment. Well, NASDAQ was extremely strong, so this non-trending environment, the trading range is upsloping. But in S&P, it was much flatter. Again, here, last commitment to the upside, and look at this June 11th bar on a lot of supply. So it suggests again that we're going to change the environment from trending to non-trending. But it didn't happen. And to me, this area right here, for now, looks a little bit similar to what we've seen, let's say, like multiple times here. This is where the breakout occurs, and then we have a little bit of the acceleration into the sign of strength. So I wonder if the latest push up is that sign of strength for us, where
Mm-hmm.
we could have a potentially supply coming in. And look how supply increased here. Look how supply increased here. Look how supply increased here. But the next day is usually going to be that confirmation or non-confirmation. So by today's close, we will know. And sometimes I see how students and traders kind of speed up a little bit in their analysis, and not waiting for a confirmation. And if you take the whole trend into the perspective, it actually pays off to wait. And even when the reversal happens, you have to wait for the confirmation of that reversal as well. So for now, it's still an uptrend. For now, we've just been in the consolidation and we got out in NASDAQ. Absolutely agree with Franz. This is the strongest. This is where all of the money are pouring in. And then the rest is kind of in the uptrend and short-term trading range. So we're defining a much longer-term environment, and then we're defining a short-term environment. And obviously, Russell and the Dow Industrial uh, have that weakness. Um, so we'll just have to see what's going to happen next. Is there going to be a follow-through? Is S&P going to overcome 3230 line right there? And if it does, then we're probably going to be thinking about the all-time high as the next
Mm-hmm.
point. And I think that once we do the all-time high, this is where we're going to have a much more pronounced reaction, as a much more pronounced change of behavior. And then we're going to go into a much more pronounced trading range. So we just want to be aware of different possibilities, different scenarios, because another scenario here is we're trying to go up, we're up thrusting, we're coming back. That would put the whole um, uptrend into jeopardy, and we would have to see what kind of character of the reaction we're going to have. So, quite a few things to think about. Well, Franz, I know that you trade metals a lot, And it seems to me that gold and silver is just kind of ripping off those bases, and it seems like everything is underway in the next leg of the uptrend. What do you think?
Well, that's like I mentioned with Patrick's trade, the uptrends when they happen, or trending markets, whether it's up or down, don't happen that often. It does look as though gold, and I definitely play the mining stocks just through the ETFs. That's the easiest way to do it
Mhm.
and get the diversification, not investment advice. But they're all making great progress, and it's onward and upward at this point.
Yeah. I think this area right here was very interesting and significant. And we had a question from a student yesterday. Why is the increase of the supply was not bearish? Well, you have to look at the result of this bar. So an attempt to go down did not commit below the last significant bar to the upside, only had a tail, and then the close was above that commitment line. Next day had the same type of the characteristics and close was higher. So that indicated absorption of the supply that was coming in. Also, I like the higher highs, higher lows here, and that it's resting on the area of the resistance that now becomes a support. So quite a bullish price action suggesting continuation to the upside. Silver was interesting. This is SLV, because it was in the trading range for some time, and I thought that the key was this reaction right here, where supply again is increasing, like in gold, and yet the price holds close to the resistance in the next 2 days, and that is suggestive that um, we are done with this whole reactionary mode. Supply is being absorbed at the level of the resistance, not just at the support, and that would suggest a breakout possibility. Okay, and let's, Franz.
I remember silver back in, I think it was 2009, maybe 2010,
Mhm.
was stuck around 18 for quite a while, kind of trading in this basically the same area. And then when it took off, I think it went pretty much straight up to 50.
Yeah,
So
so
when it goes, it goes.
uh-huh. Silver is definitely one of those instruments, very speculative instruments. Indeed, when it goes, it goes. So probably this area that you were referring to.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Mhm. So
Remember
once
it
it
well.
breaks out, watch out. So we'll have to see what's interesting about the long-term silver picture, and we've talked about this as just this whole trading range right here. And definitely there are some points of resistance that, are still in front of us. So specifically around 18 and then around 20. And if we're gonna go through 18 into 90, that would suggest a retest of 20. And retest of 20 is great because out of the what possibly as a phase C, we could have a sign of strength that could potentially overcome even 20 and then start consolidating in a more meaningful way. So we'll just have to see how that's going to unfold. But so far, a very bullish picture. Okay, let's talk about Bitcoin a little bit. It's been an interesting development here after the shakeout. There were quite a lot of calls that I've seen, online that, we're gonna go down before we go up. Well, after this shakeout, which we could call a source of funding, source of liquidity, the price quickly comes back to the value zone, which was basically this area right here, and then it just rests. And that's a very typical pattern when you have an extremely oversold condition, and then the price comes back to the previous area of consolidation, and then it consolidates before it goes up. So we still need to see, more of the true breakout here. Today it's trying to break out, but the point that we were discussing yesterday in the class with the Bitcoin is that the supply signature is going down. So when supply signature is going down, and look at on the latest move to the downside, how that supply is just diminishing, 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 and diminishing. That diminished supply suggests one thing, that we're going to have some kind of rally. But for us, Wyckoffans, just an understanding that we're going to rally or we're going to react is not enough. We need to understand what kind of character of the rally we're going to have. That's the biggest question. If we are going to have the character that is going to be weak and not overcoming these two bars, then most likely we're probably going to come back into the trading range and retouch the support level, and maybe even in a more meaningful way. But if we're going to overcome these two bars, something like this, then this will resolve itself out of the apex formation, and that's going to be the next leg up. Franz, what are your quick thoughts here on Bitcoin?
Well, this June 15th or thereabouts through current, I've seen this pattern before, and where we get this, this squeeze of volatility just goes away and volume dries up, and something happens afterwards. And if you're on the right side of it, it's something good. So
let me ask you this: does this remind you of gold pattern?
Sure. Yeah, it's that apex kind
Uh-huh.
of. I think gold had a little bit more volatility, and
Yes.
before it moved up, it was kind of up and down, testing the bounds of the range a little bit more. This actually looks more bullish than gold to me, just because of that.
Mm-hmm.
That when the pattern flattens out like that and volume dries up, I've seen it happen before, and obviously past performance is no guarantee, but something good happens.
Mm-hmm. All right. All right, guys. Well, with this, I think that we are done for today. As usual, send us your trades for us to discuss. We'll be happy to do that. And then hopefully by the time that you watch this video, either on Friday or on Saturday, Sunday, the market is still cooperating with the analysis that we did. Franz, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Ramon.